This movie came out on Easter weekend. They knew what they were doing. Hey, what is up guys? It's me, Anthony, here to give you guys another movie review. This time it is for the new horror film, The Unholy. So if you've ever seen an episode of Supernatural, specifically the episode when Sam and Dean go to a small town church and there's supposedly a person that can grant miracles, then I think you're going to really enjoy this movie. Because I mean, they got the same actor that played Sam and Dean's dad in this film, and he's doing the same stuff that he would do in Supernatural, just more of a dick way. A disgraced journalist fabricates a story of a young girl who can grant miracles, but unknowingly to him, he has unleashed an ancient evil and must race against time to stop it. So like I said in the beginning of this review, this is basically Supernatural. It's probably not one of the better episodes of Supernatural, but it's still Supernatural. And anything Supernatural is good. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is the lead in this movie. And you know what? I gotta say, I know all you girls have been screaming on Twitter about him in the last few days for some reason. I was like, was it for this movie Unholy? I didn't see a lot of traction online for this movie, but for some reason Jeffrey Dean Morgan was trending. I don't know if he's still on The Walking Dead. Don't watch The Walking Dead anymore, so I don't know if it was that, but for some reason he was all over Twitter. Girls were swooning over him, and I gotta say, after watching this movie, I understand the hype. He did a good job of portraying an asshole in this movie. A dude that needs a redemption, right? And there's a lot of redemption talk in this film, but he does a good job. He's a disgraced journalist. You know, he fabricates stories. He lost his job, and he's just doing side jobs here and there, and where he makes up stories like mutilated cows and aliens and stuff just to get a few bucks. But I just liked his presence on screen. This is the whole time I just wanted to watch him. I wanted to watch this guy. I wanted to see if he's going to redeem himself. Was he going to continue down this path of being a dick? The rest of the cast is pretty decent, especially the young lady that we have here playing Alice. Thought she did a really good job of being a person possessed. I did also like her journey in this movie. She starts off as a person that pretty much has nothing, and then to a person has pretty much everything. And of course, since this movie is a kind of religious movie, there's a lot of questions about faith and damnation and the devil and all that stuff. And if you've been watching me in this channel for a while, you know that I like movies that are kind of like this, they kind of deal in the cult and the supernatural, and they mix them together. I think those movies really have potential to be really interesting, and this movie is one of them. And for me, this movie has everything that I look for in a horror film. It has a simple setup. We are shown in just at least one location, one or two locations. It's like a motel and a church, so there's not a lot of stuff and area to cover, so the movie won't get a little bit too overwhelmed with itself. So I really like when horror movies do that. Also, we have a good monster slash villain in this movie. The design of Mary in this movie I thought was pretty terrifying, and we see her quite a bit in this movie, which I was actually pleasantly surprised, because usually with these kind of modern day horror films, they don't really show the monster that much. They show him in the shadows a little bit, or they show him off camera, like killing somebody. But in this one, we do get quite a bit of Mary in this movie. It's just the simple things in a horror film that I'm looking for. And when I say simple, again, I don't mean that it has to be boring or bland. It's just simple steps, the basics in horror films. If you just knock those out, for me, I'm going to be invested in the movie. And unlike the movie that I reviewed on this channel, go check it out. It's called The Toll. In that movie, they didn't really dive that deep in the backstory of the villain in that film, the Toll Man, which I was desperately wanting, because I wanted to know more about this guy, because the design of the monster looks cool. His powers are interesting, but they didn't really dive that deep into it, so I kind of left unsatisfied with what we got of that character in that film. But in this movie, The Unholy, we do get quite a bit of backstory of Mary, and that just builds her character, and this has built up the creep factor for her in this film. And this movie has lovable cheesiness. Like, this movie isn't the best. It's not going to win any Oscars. It's not going to win any type of snobby awards or anything like that. No Golden Globes or anything. But this has cheese, a lot of cheesy stuff in here. And I live for cheesy stuff in horror films. Like, there's scenes in here that don't make sense. There's lots of plot holes, especially towards the end. But I'm here for it. It just added to the greatness of this movie. You know, I'm not going to just praise this film. There is some stuff that I didn't like about this movie. And as I did say that I did like the cheese in the movie, I also didn't like some of the cheese because some of the stuff goes a little bit too far into the cheesy realm. There is a scene towards the end of the film where it just gets batshit crazy, and there's like one thing happening after another in quick succession to the point where you're just like, okay, that doesn't make any sense even for this film. There's also some just line deliveries that some people make that's just not so pretty, or should I say not so holy, you know. There's also quite a few jump scares in this movie. I think they're actually quite effective, but I know that a lot of people, especially some horror fans, don't really like jump scares, and especially if there's a movie that has like kind of relies on jump scares. I wouldn't say this movie relies on jump scares, but there is a lot in here, so if you're not a fan of that, that might be a negative for you. But overall, guys, I really enjoyed Unholy. Like I said, it's a cheesy movie. It doesn't really take itself too seriously, and the monster design, the monster's backstory, those are the most important things what I look at for a horror film. Also, the main characters, are they interesting? Are they compelling? Do you care about them? And I think that movie does that effectively with Jeffrey Dean Morgan and a few other characters like Alice and stuff. But that's really all I need for a movie to keep me interested and keep me entertained and for me to like it. And I like Unholy. But the most important thing is, what did you guys think about the Unholy? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you like Supernatural? What's your favorite episode? Do you like Jeffrey Dean Morgan? Are you gotten the hots for him like every other girl on Twitter right now? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and do all that stuff. Also check out my Twitter so you can stay up to date with my channel. And remember, guys, keep watching movies.